Hey, Jeff, thanks for joining us today as a way of getting started. Give us a little background on yourself.
Hey, Brian. Yeah, good to meet you, and thanks for this opportunity. Um, a little background on me. Well, as you may be able to tell with the grey hairs, I've been doing this for a while. I actually ended up in field sales from the age of 18. So I
Oh,
really have been doing this sort of even pre-university. Never got the chance for university, thanks to enjoying my what they call A levels here in the UK education a little bit too much. Um, Started off selling in terms of technology type stuff. Started off selling services, which I think was a great introduction then to where we are now with software as a service versus perpetual. Had some great companies and colleagues and customers over my career from all sorts of different technology spaces with all sorts of different verticals. I've done international sales from the UK into Europe, into the US, out to Asia Pac. I've done indirect. I've done Angel Series A through latter series through IPO. So the spectrum of experience, when I sit down and think about sort of coming onto this call with you, it's actually quite scary because I think I've done quite a lot.
yeah. And what part or which one fit your style, your personality the best?
I don't think there's an answer to that. Yeah, I started in hospitality. That's where I actually started my working life.
Yeah,
And yeah, you nod because absolutely, I think we're both on the same page on that one.
yeah.
So what I worked out with that was I just enjoy understanding what's going on with people, and if I can help them, try and help them. That's what got me into sales. And then in terms of today and the career, I realized probably about 15 years ago, I don't mind whether I'm a VP, a manager, an individual contributor. I don't mind whether I'm more hunter than a farmer. I am at heart a hunter. I'm a hunter killer at heart, but I can farm. As a friend of mine said, "Oh, so you like red meat, but you enjoy potatoes and red wine with it." Yeah, and I thought that's a great way to describe it. So I guess any environment where I'm learning, I can help, and we can just have some fun and make a difference. Beyond that, I'm actually quite relaxed because technology should solve a problem. If you can identify and understand the problem, you can solve it, and if you can articulate that, people will buy from you. So it's much more binary for me. There's no specialism.
Yeah. But you became great at it. How did that what was that process like? Was it arduous? Was
No, not at all. It was fascinating. And again, you look back with hindsight and you realize there are key points. Some VPs and some colleagues who give you great tips and tricks. It's one of the things I love now is I am a mentor to about 15, 18 people in the spectrum of selling. Some are pre-sales, some are consultants, but we act as mentors and mentees. And that's, of course, it's a two-way process. So I learn from them every time. One of my favorites was I just moved into IT proper, technology proper. And the gentleman sat at the desk opposite me. I was in my mid to late 20s. Gentleman sat opposite me within his late 50s. And every time I was on a call, he heard me call the customer sir. And he said, "I love the respect, young man." He said, "That's beautiful. But the way we're judged in society is often around our income. And it's highly likely that 95% of the people you're talking to, you're going to earn more than them. So don't be subservient. You're their peer. You're here to help them. You're here to provide input and advice." And that was one of those ding light bulb moments.
yeah.
And it's been lovely because every now and again, different scenarios, you get those, "Oh, that's really useful. Let me take that and use it and learn from it." By the same token, the bad ones, the ones where you are a little arrogant, I was listening to one of yours yesterday about the concept of we're taught gift of the gab, we're taught to pitch. No, now, no. And so don't pitch. This is the first slide. Let me tell you about my wonderful company. They don't care. It's those you get these light bulb moments, and you bring them together, and you make yourself better and better and better. And then your art is to keep practicing it. Yeah, we do. Any of my team, any of my colleagues know we do not do a demo or a team call with a customer without a dress rehearsal. Normally a rehearsal and a dress rehearsal. Then we go to the customer, because if we're not on our game, we're not showing them respect. Yeah, if I'm got someone in front selling to me, I want them to show me that respect. So the least I can do is do the same for everybody I try and meet.
Now, that's a fantastic mindset to have because I talk a lot about the performance mindset in sales, not the knowledge. Because you haven't, you've given the demo what couple of thousand times, right? You know it.
No, back to front, inside out. There was one fantastic meeting I did where I was actually traveling and I was walking through an airport, and we had to do slides. My pre-sales colleague was at our office on the meeting. I dialed in and I actually did my slides without them in front of me whilst walking through an airport because I knew the story that well. Now, that's a great position of comfort and confidence. The customer was then like, you guys really know your stuff, because if you can talk about this relevant to what I've just told you in the previous 20 minutes on the fly, you're a company we want to, you are people and a company we want to deal with. And again, I was taught very early on, people buy from people. People first, company second.
Yes.
And it's really fascinating.
Well, a lot of leadership forgets that. They're hiring salespeople and then they want them to act like robots.
The best analogy I can give, having started in hospitality, and a lot of my hospitality part was catering. I love cooking. And things like wine are not wine. They are an accompaniment to a meal. They are a contributory flavor. Companies want the McDonald's format. They want you to be able to knock burgers out, bang, 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 bang. But they forget we're actually 3-star Michelin restaurants. Yes. And you need a pastry specialist. You need your meat and your fish specialist. And every recipe needs its own good ingredients and it has its own cooking process. And when I met the CEO I work for now, lovely lady, she's also a big cooking fan. I said, sales is like cooking. I said, when you're in front of the customer, you need to know the recipe. You need to obey the steps. Certain recipes, you can accelerate, you can cheat a little bit. If you've got bad ingredients, qualify poorly, you'll never get a positive success. If you've got good ingredients, you can absolutely produce a bad meal, so you can qualify well and still mess it up. I said, and if it's a souffle, just do as you're told. Well, because otherwise it's just going to go.
That's it, because cooking is a performance.
Yes, completely, every time. And it's different every time.
And everyone thinks it's chemistry. Well, it is kind of chemistry, but there's a lot of uniqueness in there, a lot of style, a lot of personality, because
it's not just mathematics. And again, your whole do dumb things faster, do more dumb things. I love that, because that's the math. If you don't talk to any customers, you're never going to sell anything. Tick, done. But it's the science and the art. We're storytellers, we're painters, we're also scientists, because what we say, how we say it, when we say it, the action-reaction cycle, and understanding that action-reaction cycle. So if I say this, they go here. Am I happy with that? Is that the reaction I want? So what can I change to go that? And that's not manipulation. It's just making sure you're putting both parties in the position to reach an outcome that they're both happy with. Because if either party's unhappy at the end, it's going to go wrong. And in software as a service, the cost of a bad customer relationship is so high, you can't afford to do that. So it is that science, math, art.
Yes.
It's a performance, and every single time the ingredients are different.
And every great chef out there has a cookbook, and everybody thinks, oh, they skipped. They don't write down every step, but they don't write down every ingredient. I go, no, you go to the back. They'll give you their exact suppliers, their exact cooking equipment, and that they have schools. And people and apprentices can go there and learn.
And when the apprentices are learning and you go into their restaurant and they cook that meal for you because you've ordered it off the menu, even if it's opening night, they've cooked it 100 times before you even get the first opportunity. Yeah. And that comes back to the rehearsal, that comes back to the performance. The best sports analogies ever. I don't know a single professional sport, even half decent amateur sports person, who doesn't practice religiously, does not coach, does not have their coach with them X hours a week to make sure they're on the game. And that is the same for us, which is why we do the dress rehearsals. I'm religious about it. Yeah. I will not. I've actually cancelled a demonstration because pre-sales engineer was off sick. That's unfortunate. We therefore could not do the dress rehearsal. Therefore, we're not meeting the customer. I'm sorry, my guy's been off sick. We're not going to make the best use of your time, Mr. Customer, if we do this without just give us a couple more days, please.
And when you're mentoring younger salespeople, what are they typically asking? Are they asking for like shortcuts and secrets, or are they asking for feedback on how they're doing?
So the good ones are asking for feedback on how they're doing, and they're looking to improve. The improvement, then there are very much two camps. There are the, I guess I would call them the young guns, the ones who want to get there at speed.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's just an amount of time you have to go through doing anything before you can get to that level. You can
Yeah.
try and accelerate bits. So they're the ones looking for the silver bullet, the quick trick. There is no silver bullet in selling. The ones who have the longest relationships with them, the longer relationships, are the ones who go, right, so I now want to map a path that says these are some of the improvements I know I need to make. How do I improve and keep improving and keep, because they know, I mean, I'm sat here today having been doing this a lot of years, and every single day is a school day.
Yes.
Every single day you come across something and go, that's a bit different. Hang on a minute. And that is, I guess, why a huge amount of the enjoyment comes from, because as human beings, we evolve by learning. And in this profession, you never stop learning, and it is a profession.
Right. And people want to simplify it and codify it. And I think that,
Automate it.
yeah, and then that doesn't improve it. Right.
Well, that's, for me, that's catering to almost, in sales, we have a bad rep because of all of these practices. Whether you want to talk about double glazing, automotive, some of the guys who have gone for the feature function, let me cut you a deal. I remember working for one company and I got hauled into the office and like, these two deals, we're going to be short of our number this month. I know they're next quarter, but you need to give them both 30% discount and get them done in the next 2 weeks. My reply was, that's not how selling works, because they're not at the point where that makes any difference to them. We could give it to them for free. And one of my old bosses, one of his favorite qualification questions was, if it was free, would they buy it? And if you couldn't answer that with a firm yes, and you know why they could buy it, then you're just discussing price and value. If you can't answer yes, why are you even talking to them? And it is that, there is a point in time in every sale where certain things should be done and certain things should absolutely be avoided. With young reps, and in fact, anybody I've ever had on my teams, and I invite my management in when I've been an individual contributor, deals go wrong at the start, not at the end. The things you miss in the first 2-3 meetings are what catches you out at the end of the cycle. And everybody's like, SVP comes in to close the deal. No, they've closed the deal. The deal was closed 7 meetings before.
Yeah.
Where things go wrong, and where as a manager I've had the most impact and I've found it most enlightening, what are my reps saying? When are they saying it? What's the customer asking that we're not even hearing in our ivory tower of internal world? That's not even getting to us. Hang on, I've heard that in 3 different first meetings with 3 different reps. That's got to be something. Why is that coming up? And then you get into you're preloading your story. Your storytelling should handle their natural first objections.
Yes.
So they go, oh, you guys know this. You're comfortable with this. There's no fluster. Price. A number of times in my early career, I was told, don't discuss price. I even had one company where we were actually unable to discuss price because it was a breach of rules if you discuss price without having had the deal approved by deal desk before you went for your first meeting. I haven't even had a first meeting. How do I know what they want to buy? How do I do a price? For me, budget is one of the biggest qualifiers early on. If they ask, discuss it. Don't be afraid of it. But don't go for the budget question early, because then they feel like then they know they're being sold to, and you don't want that.
Right.
One of the greatest sales courses I went on, the trainer said, too many sales processes work on the concept. If it was dating, you walk into the bar and you see the lovely lady, lovely man, whatever your choices may be, etc. Don't want to define anything here, but you see that person, you think, oh my God, they're beautiful. And you walk up and go, hello, can I get married? Can I marry you and have 4 children? It's not the way it works. Hi, can I buy you a drink? Yes, I can.
Yes.
Earn the right to the next step. Earn the right to the next step. And that way, these things, and in my world, I have a mind map. I have the things I need for a deal. And in every single deal, they come out at different times and different points, and they direct the conversation. They direct the questioning I need to take based on the person who's in front of me. Because if they're talking, listen, absorb, adjust to them.
And how did you develop this mindset, this kind of student of the game, passionate about the game, and knowing that it is a game that you're not going to win all of them. You're never going to be perfect. You can always learn more. You can always screw up by not being ready. You're on mute. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, it's only because the hound. It's the one person I can't get to be quiet is the puppy dog. So yeah, I mean, when did I learn that? The early days in the pub taught me some of it.
Really?
You've got I'm 5'8", so what, 1.68 meters or something. Yeah, you get a 2 meter, 6'6" guy who's getting on for double your weight, who's had 10 pints of beer, giving you attitude. You learn to be a diplomat very, very quickly. And then from there, it's sort of, okay, so in this situation, be aggressive, you're going to get hit. Be considerate, guiding, try and coax them, then you're not going to get hit. And it's almost built from there. And then you come into selling, and it's exactly the same thing. If you go into the customer too aggressive, you're going to get asked. They're going to ignore you. They're going to. I had one very early in my career. I think I was 22 years old. I was about 22 years old, and we had a compliance problem with a reasonably sized customer, and they wanted us to do stuff. The contract in no way justified it, and we were well within our rights. Managing director called me into the office, was thumping his hand on the desk. And when I said, I hear you, I completely get where you're coming from, but we cannot do it because of this, and this, and this is your paperwork. It's not my paperwork. He finished that meeting by pressing the button, and I have actually been physically escorted from a building by 2 security guards at the age of 22. And that is when you suddenly you get a realization for sometimes when they say no, they really mean no.
Yeah.
But there are degrees of no.
Sure.
And that's what you learn that. And you go, okay, so when they said no, do they mean no or do they mean not yet? Right. Do they mean we're not ready?
Not today.
And so it's really weird because that then taught me that the most powerful word in my vocabulary is no, not yes. Sales reps who say yes to everything create problems. I did a procurement conversation, lovely guy, group procurement head, based in Chicago, interestingly. I was here in the UK and it was late night for me. And we finished the call and he said, Jeff, do you realize in the last hour and 11 minutes, you've said no to me 9 times without using the word no? It's like, yeah, Rob, I think you know I have. He said, yeah, I'm completely aware you have. And we now still talk to each other. It formed the bond because of that respect. And I think, it's really interesting. You sort of, if you're not inquisitive, if you're not curious, don't be in sales. If you're not passionate, don't be in sales. And the two together, customers can see whether you believe in what you're talking about.
Yes.
If it doesn't come through, 80% of human interaction is non-verbal. So they'll see it in your body language, the way you hold yourself, the tone of voice you use, all of that stuff. Not what you're actually saying is then so important. So curiosity and passion become the core, and that I guess just sort of got polished and enhanced over the years I've been doing it, thanks to some of the great colleagues and customers I've had.
And when a young gun comes to you looking for the silver bullet, looking for the shortcuts and the tricks and gimmicks, how do you coach around that?
It's what I use internally, and actually I've used with customers on occasion. I try to turn it round and turn them round. So with a customer, I've actually have on a number of occasions when they've been negotiating gone, it's like, so automotive customer. Yeah, we don't want to pay this. We want this. We don't want to pay for it for 6 months. That's excellent. So I can go down to my local dealership, pick up a car, drive it around for 6 months, and then decide if I want to pay you. No, of course you can't. Right. And it's the same internally. You turn it around on them. Go, if you were are you looking at buying something? And they say, yeah, I had one about 3 years ago. He's like, yeah, I'm looking at buying my first house with my girlfriend. I said, cool. So I'm the estate agent, and I hit him with everything he just discussed with me in the same vein. And he was like, ooh. I was like, right. So what I've just done is what you've just described to me. Yeah. How can we make this better? I look for them. I sort of set the scene and then I asked them to tell me how it could be better. How did it make them feel? What would you change? What did you like? What didn't you like? And then you get into the realms of teaching them how to both articulate that verbally, but also in written format, and a little bit of research. Don't hit somebody blind. If you can't articulate what you can do for someone, it may not be accurate, it may not be wholly accurate, but you've got a view of how you can help them, and you don't know enough about them and their business and how their business works. Then why are you even talking to them? Because again, so you have to get the young guns out of I've got one of these. How many do you want, sir? Yeah. Into this is what it does. This is why it's important to you. It's the gap. This is where you are. This is where I can get you to. And it's more recent times, and when I say more recently, the last few years, in most first, second, third calls, I will actually call out the objective of the call. The first thing I will say, Brian, it's lovely to meet you today. Thank you for your time. Just before we get started, I just want to make sure that there are 3 possible outcomes from today's call with you. 1, you like what we're talking about and we need to talk more now. 2, you like what we're talking about, but the other priorities you've got on the table today mean we need to pick this up in, is it 2 months, 3 months, 4 months? We'll agree that at the end of the call. Or 3, guess what? There may be no fit at all. And if there isn't, and we agree to part company and we don't need to talk, that's awesome, because we're going to save both of our teams a lot of time. And by calling that out in the first 2-3 sentences after saying hello, guess what? They now know they're not being sold to.
Yeah, I mean, that's a upfront contract. It's a good way of setting the stage.
My expectation is, I don't know if you're going to be a customer. I don't know if we're ready for you to be a customer yet.
Yeah. Now, how about as far as selling to different countries? Because I get this all the time for people outside of the US. They're like, well, I sell here and my rascals are very different than your rascals.
There are differences between the rascals. You're absolutely right. And I've sold, as I said earlier, I've sold to the US. I've done a lot in the UK. I've done 2 jobs where I was in continental Europe every working day for 2 years. Did nothing in the UK. And there are subtle differences. So the US are typically more risk willing. There's a willingness to try something, which is much lower. There's a much more cautious approach here in Europe. The Germans are very technical. It's less about the relationship and more about, does it work? And I know it's sort of stereotypical, but it's true. Yeah. The Scandinavians are a mix of relationship and technical, and then there's different levels of emotional share. The Finnish, even if you've just given them a check for $1 million, they might smile. Whereas and then you come down through the Italians and the Spanish, and they're very much more about do they trust you? Yeah. If things are not quite right, they'll go with it, providing you're good and you're trustworthy. I had one day where I did a breakfast meeting in Denmark, in Copenhagen. I did a lunch in Frankfurt in Germany, and then I did dinner in Milan in Italy. And it was a case, by the time I got to the last one, I was like, where am I? Which country am I in? Because you do have to adjust for the character set of the nationality, and there are nationality character sets.
Well, I mean, even in the US, I've covered the whole continent, Canada. Yeah. It's completely different geography.
Northeast is different to Southeast, is different to West, is different to Central, is different to Canada. Completely agree with you. And
of course it's going to be, but there's a lot of commonality too, right? Yes. So
it's mostly 80-20, 80, and it's mostly 80-20. That rule would apply. There's 80% which is consistent, because you still have to be the right character, you have to do the right things, you have to have the right approach. And then you've got the subtleties of how do they prefer to buy, how do they prefer to talk. And of course, when you're doing stuff in continental Europe, you've then got a language barrier. Right. And I don't speak all of those languages, and that becomes another interesting challenge. So you need a trusted party with you, ideally, or you need to make sure that the person you're talking to is able to, has enough confidence in my case, English, for them to then be your champion and your sponsor internally. So you are in those countries, you're also handing a degree of more control over, because of that language barrier.
And what do you wish you learned when you first got into sales that you now know that would have really accelerated your success?
Probably the big one is don't pitch. Yeah. Hello, we've got these. Let me tell you how good they are. Let me tell you how great we are. How many, and you get shut down more times than not. If I could apply what I do now to what I was doing 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, because the increments of improvement, I think the outcomes would have been significantly different. But again, that only comes with, you switch off the enthusiasm and the hunger of being the young buck, and you become the older sort of, actually, do you know something? There's 5 or 6 good reasons why I maybe don't want to have, let's just understand if it's worth spending time with this customer rather than they want to talk to me. This is exciting.
Well, that is, and nothing puts you in the commodity trap faster than the pitch.
Correct. Yeah, there's a time, and again, a pitch is not a pitch. A pitch is multiple points of answering with reference material, with those stories, the storytelling that then combines, so the overall picture is a pitch. And also, don't overpitch. Yeah, if they're focused on 2 or 3 things out of your kit bag, we do about 12 where I am today. If they focus on 2 or 3 things, stick with those. Understand if the others are interested or not, but focus on the ones they care about. because you could throw the other 5 or 6 in, and actually all that's going to happen is you're going to devalue your proposition. The diminishing averaging, the way the value gets averaged over the things you talk about is another really interesting learning that I wish I'd known 20 years ago.
And how about as far as the passion has to be there, but we have to regulate it, meaning until we know there's a match, we can't be too passionate about it. Right?
Well, and again, of course, we know our stuff. So we have that confidence and that passion, and that's where the arrogance comes out. And that's where you have to balance that arrogance with confidence. I know, and as a younger salesperson, you could hear the question coming, and you're answering it because you're at that age, you're tuned to answer, not to listen. So you're in. Let me answer that for you, Brian. I haven't even finished asking the question yet, Jeff. Versus now, very much more a pause. Yes, there's no hurry. Take 10, 15 seconds and just let that absorb. Throw in the interesting question. Got a customer who actually asked me something very similar a few weeks ago. Buy yourself the time to be more accurate with that action reaction cycle. Otherwise, you jump in with your reaction and go, oh, God, I used the wrong story. And again, that whole, with age comes the experience of going and breathe.
That's right. Because not talking becomes a skill.
And there are times when you need to just go, especially if you're in negotiation. Most powerful thing in the negotiation?
Silence.
Pause. Your move.
It is. And sometimes the hardest thing to do, because you want the deals, you want to offer an alternative.
The emotions are running high. And that's, again, it's when we're at our most susceptible. I'm a big fan of the concept of natural and unnatural behaviors. So that's when you hit an unnatural behavior because your emotions are high. You're in a situation of, I want the deal. I need the deal for the call. Maybe your manager's giving you stress about it. It still fascinates me as to why a deal can be worth so much less on the 30th of the month than the 1st of the month. I don't still struggle with that one, even after many, many years. But because your emotions are high, you end up behaving unnaturally.
Yes.
And that's when you are prone to not doing your best, not being the best version of you.
Well, all of selling is unnatural. Essentially, if you look at it, because we haven't talked to strangers up until the last century. Before this,
so in our village, in our community,
right?
Exactly.
Our family, our extended village, and maybe you traveled once a season or something.
Yeah, when the season permitted it.
Right, and now we have all this. We can talk to almost anybody in the world, but nobody wants to hear from us.
And well, again, your whole people don't want to hear your adverts. They're paying to tune out of adverts. It's one of my favorites of recent times. There is a great, John McMahon and obviously the Medic guys and all those great names of the time and this profession. It always makes me laugh that his lines were, why buy now? Why buy from me? Where's the word sell in that? So when I get asked what I do, and I think it was one of your casts this week, are you embarrassed to confess you're a salesperson? I said, I'm a professional software salesperson. My job is to find people who need to buy my software. It's not about me selling to you. It's about finding the people who need to buy what I do. And it's a subtle mindset shift. But if you can get your head around that one, it then changes it into, well, if I don't know if you want to buy it unless I ask you a question. So I don't need to pitch to you because I don't know yet.
Yeah.
Help me help you. It's sort of, you have to teach yourself to think that way.
And there's so many of those things because asking questions is kind of counterintuitive because most of us, we think of communication as talking and listening.
And don't over prepare. If you over prepare, your brain goes into, I know the answers to that. I don't need to ask the question. I've already researched that. I've read it. No. What you've read is something on a white paper or an annual report. What you haven't got is what is Brian's position against that? Is that his KPI? What's his version of that KPI? How does that affect him? If he misses it, what happens? Yeah. All of those things you suddenly start to assume. So you need to prepare enough to participate with the right questions and to be relevant and personable. But you need to not over prepare. Otherwise you go assumptive. And again, it's like, well, I don't really need to talk to you because I know what you need. And then you fall straight back into giving a pitch.
Yeah.
Because there's no engagement. So it's a never ending fight with your own persona to behave in a way that enables that. Yeah, completely.
Cool. Hey, Jeff, I really appreciate your time today. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
Easiest place is LinkedIn. Do most of my actions and bits and pieces on there. So if anybody wants to pick up, ask questions, I am firm believer this is a profession and we can all make our profession ever better. So if there are people who'd like to ask questions, then please do ping me and I'll be happy to try and engage and help where I can.